Hey folks, Jessica here. Somewhat predictably, we're going to talk about stamina today. I did an Enmity video, so I have to do a stamina video. They are yin and yang to each other. They're essentially the opposite mechanic. Stamina is more attack when your HP is high. Enmity is more attack when your HP is low. I'm going to try and cover like all the things I did in an Enmity video, so I'm going to talk about what the skill does, give you some numbers to work with. I'm going to talk about different weapons to use. I'm going to talk about different characters that work well with stamina. I'll show some use cases towards the very end. I will add the caveat, though, this video is going to be shorter than the Enmity video. I hope, because the Enmity video was over an hour long. It went on forever. The thing with stamina is it's a lot easier to understand. It's a lot simpler. Generally, you want to keep your HP high by healing yourself. You want to use damage cuts to keep yourself from taking too much damage, and you want to tag a lot. Stamina is basically how you would think to play a game safely. Like, I don't want to say stamina is basic, but stamina is basic. Like, the way you play a stamina build really aligns with how you would think to play any RPG if you're playing safe. So let's talk about the skills. Let's pull open the chart. Just to give some context. This is the same chart I was using from Granblue Fantasy Wiki for the Enmity video. This is a stamina chart. It shows stamina at various skill levels and HP thresholds. Generally considered the best stamina weapon in the game, Eden is medium stamina and goes up to SL 15. So this column here would be the one we look at for Eden. Now, Eden is generally considered one of the best weapons in the game, period. Eden template weapons in the elements that have them, very powerful weapon. Except for Dark, because Dark's just got to be that way. So this is an interesting threshold to look at. Note that when you start taking damage, you start falling off pretty quick. And I think the breakpoint that you really want to look at here is where you fall to 0 bonus. I think some people have the wrong idea. They think that stamina doesn't turn off all the way until you get to like 1% HP or even like 1 HP. That's not true at all. Stamina turns off at below 25% HP. Lots of fights, you're probably going to drop below 25% HP. It's not that uncommon thing. So that is definitely a drawback of stamina and something to keep in mind. We've got to look at the other side of it. This is the Enmity chart. Opposite, obviously, at 100%, you have 0% Enmity bonus. Now, Eden was SL 15, so Gisla is also Massive Attack SL 15. Let's look at it. At full stamina, Eden gives 9.56 attack. Gisla, on the other hand, at 50%, gives 10% attack. So it's ever so slightly better than Eden when you're at 50% health. Anything below 50%, it just gets steadily better than an Eden until you hit 1 HP, in which case it's a 30% bonus versus 9.56, so more than 3 times better. Does that mean Enmity is better than Stamina? That's not apples to apples. Like, that's not really a valid comparison. They're completely different play styles, and they require different characters to support them. For Dark, an element that has characters like Summer Zoe and Nier and all the other characters I've talked about a lot, Enmity is definitely better than Stamina in Dark. For Light, where you don't have any characters that really consume their own HP, Stamina is definitely going to be better. It's got a ton of healers and damage cuts. Stamina's way better for Light. So that's kind of how you got to look at it. They're not apples to apples. That said, the reason why Enmity is considered kind of the meta racing setup with, again, Summer Zoe and Nier and various other bullshit Dark characters is because at its maximum, Enmity is definitely stronger than Stamina because it's 30% versus 9.56. Like, just, there's not, you can't really make an argument against that. And the reason why that's a valid comparison is Summer Zoe and Nier give you the ability to hit this otherwise unreasonable bar of being on 1 HP. So that's that comparison. Now let's look at some weapons. Okay, I would be remiss in talking about stamina weapons if I did not start with Eden. Eden is the prototypical stamina weapon. It is pretty widely considered the best weapon in the game for elements that have access to an Eden template weapon. What I mean by that is Eden is massive attack, medium stamina, and it's a grand weapon. Any element that has access to a grand weapon that's massive attack, medium stamina, that's probably your best option in that element, except for Dark, because Dark has always got to be weird and, like, you know, not follow the rules. But for everybody else, having an Eden template weapon, great. You want to run a ton of them. I'm going to show Kamigame grids in a little bit, and I'll show you what I mean. But basically, any element that has access to an Eden, you can legitimately make the argument that you can just keep on plugging in Edens and like fully dominating them and uncapping them, and you're just gonna get stronger and stronger and stronger if you're running Primal. Like, building Eden style grids, not that complicated. You can run 4 or 5 of these things even. It's all upside. The thing to note about Eden is it is not just a stamina weapon, it's massive attack. I think a lot of people get stuck on stamina and they're like, oh, stamina is the best skill in the game. Well, Eden's not good just because it has stamina. It's good because it has stamina and massive attack. It has 2 offensive stats. And the reason why that's a big deal is stamina, as I just said, falls off quickly. If you start taking damage and you only have stamina, you're completely screwed. But because Eden has massive attack, it's still a freaking massive attack. So an Eden grid does start falling off as it takes damage, but still got a decent amount of attack because it's also got massive attack on everything. So that is a big thing to look for when you look at stamina weapons. And I'm not going to talk about every single stamina weapon like I did with Enmity. I'm just going to give you some things to look out for, and you can determine for yourself whether or not a weapon is going to be a great stamina weapon or not. But yes, that's the thing to look out for. 2 offensive stats. Okay, let's look at some stamina weapons for light that aren't an Eden. Let's look at Magna one. Mitron's Bow. This one's medium stamina and Resolve. So Resolve's an awkward one because it's medium stamina, medium crit, and then slight chance to dodge and counter. Here's the thing. Slight chance to dodge and counter, can't really plan around it. It's going to happen when it happens. It's probably not even going to be that meaningful. It's not going to be that much damage over a course fight. Essentially, it's a dead skill. You might get some small benefit out of it, but it's pretty much a dead skill. So why does that matter? Well, a way to look at weapons is nothing on a weapon is free. If it's got HP on it, you're getting that HP instead of something else. If you're getting a slight chance to dodge and counter, you're getting that instead of something else. And I've got a great example, actually. Let's pull up the browser again. So, okay, the bow, medium stamina, medium crit, and then slight chance to dodge and counter, right? All right, weapon just came out that we talked about. Pillar of Flame. Medium stamina, big crit. So here's the thing. The bow, very similar weapon, but is medium crit because it also has a slight chance to dodge and counter. So you're trading big crit for medium crit in order to get that slight chance to dodge and counter. And that can make a difference. I think people are super hype about Pillar of Flame. Like, they think it's going to be a really big deal. And, people are going to use it. It's a good weapon. But Mitron's Bow is actually pretty close to Pillar of Flame in terms of what it gives you. But the edge that Pillar of Flame has is it doesn't have that freaking slight chance to dodge and counter, and instead has big crit. So that's a thing to keep an eye out for when you look at a weapon. Does the weapon have dead skills? Because dead skills usually mean that it's not going to be your best option. Let's look at another stamina weapon. This is Hector's Bow. Yeah, Hector. I think this is from Hector, Bow of the Iliad. Yeah, that makes sense. Sounds right. Okay, big stamina, right? Great. What else has it got? Dual Edge. Thunder's Dual Edge. Okay. Like I was just saying, nothing's free. You're getting this dual edge instead of like small attack or even HP would be a common one. Dual edge is almost a dead skill in my opinion. The thing with double attack is it is super easy to max out double attack. A lot of people kind of dunk on Trium these days because Trium, if you didn't know, is the skill that gives you just general multi-attack. The thing is, Trium has fallen off because there's so many characters that either guarantee triple attack or multi-attack, or there's so many characters that give strong multi-attack buffs. Dual Edge is the much worse version of Trium, because, again, it doesn't boost triple, just boosts double. And double attack, you just have higher double attack naturally than triple attack. And buffs that buff both of them usually buff double attack more than they buff triple attack. So if you're already, like, questioning whether you should run Trium because you're not gaining that much because you're already getting close to like the cap for triple attack, double attack is even worse because you don't have to be playing the game for very long. You don't have to have a really deep like set of roster of characters in order to get to the point where you've maxed out double attack. So double attack in your grid, garbo. So then this weapon essentially only has one offensive stat because double attack, in my opinion, is dead. And as I was saying before, only having stamina is bad because once you start taking damage, you're kind of up shit creek because, like, unless you can heal yourself back into stamina range, your damage is going to be super low. You can't run a ton of these. Moving on. Okay, time to talk about Dark. We are going to talk about Fallen Sword. This is Dark Angel Olivia's weapon. Dark Angel Olivia, the character, I should say. This is a grand weapon. It is an Eden template weapon. I know it says big attack there, but big attack becomes massive attack once you actually fully uncap and level this thing. So it's massive attack, medium stamina. Already touched on it earlier. This weapon in a vacuum, it's great. It's another Eden. Eden weapons are all good. Like, if you wanted to run like 5 of these things in a vacuum, totally legit, totally strong weapon. However, you're not existing in a vacuum. You exist in an element, and the element has characters. And the thing with Fallen Sword Grids is there are a few characters that support a Stamina Dark playstyle. Halloween Lady Grey, Valentine's Clarice, even like Grand Fairy, you could say. Even Six will be fine in like a Stamina Grid because he's not that Enmity dependent. However, there are so many characters in Dark that support Enmity, and the ways they support Enmity are so vastly more impactful than the characters that support Stamina in Dark. You've got Summer Zoe, you've got freaking Nier, you've got like Predator, I would say would be an Enmity character. Like, you've got so many, and the heights you can get to with Enmity are so high in Dark compared to where you can get to with Stamina in Dark. Does that mean you shouldn't ever run Fallen Swords? No. There, in fact, are a few fights where if you wanted to do them with Dark, Fallen Sword would be a good option. But you're trading off a lot if the only Dark grid you have is a Stamina grid. So Stamina Dark is not bad. It's just you have a better option in Enmity Dark. Now, if you had a vast amount of resources, then you could build both, and that would be legit. You would use Enmity Dark for any of the fights where it works, which is a lot. Like, all your racing, all your farming is probably going to be Enmity Dark. And then if you hit a fight where staying high health is super important, then you could switch over to Stamina Dark. That's how it works. Like, Stamina Dark's not bad, but Dark is more aligned in terms of the characters it has, and has better opportunities in Enmity than Stamina. There's opportunity cost to running a bunch of Fallen Swords, is the way I would put it. Moving on from that, we already talked about this weapon, but if you want a Magna option for Stamina Dark, Zechariah. I keep on wanting to say it's Zechariah, but Zechariah. This thing is a fine stamina weapon for Dark. Does suffer from the exact thing I talked about with Bow of Iliad. It only really has one offensive stat. It's just got stamina. HP, not really what you want to see, because again, HP is not free. You're getting HP instead of an attack stat. So this thing suffers from the fact that it only has stamina. Therefore, when you start taking damage, your damage is going to fall it's going to drop like a rock. So moving on. Okay, Fire. Fire is ruled by Ixaba. Ixaba is a stamina fire weapon, strand weapon. It's Sturm's katana. it's exactly an Eden except for it's a katana. So massive attack, medium stamina. Fire, I think, more than any of the other elements, in fact, leans heavily on Ixaba. The best fire grids tend to be like 5 freaking Ixabas. I'm not even kidding. If you want to know, should you invest in more Ixabas? Well, do you have 5? Because if you don't have 5, then the answer is probably yeah, invest in more Ixabas. Fire's just that way. Ixaba is just a tremendously powerful weapon. Also pretty good main hand, I would say. Now, if you want to talk like Magna fire, again, we've already talked about it. And the more I think about this, a lot of the new Regalia weapons are just stamina options for the various Magna elements. But Nilacantha is the new Regalia weapon. It is exactly Zechariah but fire. You're going to notice the thing as we talk about weapons more and more. I throw on the word template, but yeah. This is like a Zechariah template weapon, or Zechariah is a Nilacantha template weapon. They are essentially the same weapon, but in a different element, in a different form factor. You want to have mind blown? You know what both of those are, Zechariah and Nilacantha? They're Thimble template weapons. We'll talk about Thimble when we get to water, but if you look at the stats, these are all just gussied up Thimbles. That's all they are. They're Magna Thimbles. So, yes, that's fire. I know I'm brief here, but there's not a lot to talk about. Like, your best option is Ixaba, and then you want to go Magna, then Nilacantha. Moving on. Oh, by the way, if you're expecting me to mention, like, a farmable stamina weapon for Fire Primal, I can't think of one. There might be one, but none are immediately obvious to me. So let's move on to Earth. Now, Earth's an interesting one, in that Earth does have an Eden template weapon, Ichigo Hito Fury, a very good one. Again, massive attack, medium stamina. Earth's a little bit of a weird element in that more than any other element, you can make a case that Highlander is a good setup for it in hard content. So Highlander, if you're not familiar, is you run Staff Dominion for its cap-up bonus, and then you run only one of each weapon. You can't run more than one of any specific weapon in Highlander grid. That's why it's a Highlander grid. There can only be one, to quote the movie. So the thing with Highlander grids is you're getting higher damage cap, but you're not as efficient as a grid that stacks Edens or Ichigo Hito Furies, because you can't run more than one of a weapon. That's an issue for the other elements, but for Earth it's a little different because Earth has Kame. Kame is one of the evokers. Kame's thing essentially is if you're using all different weapons, he gives you a bonus, similar to the Highlander bonus. So you're kind of double dipping in Highlander with Kame. So Kame lets you more reasonably continue to run Highlander in harder content. I think that the thing to note is if you're a Turbo Whale and you're running like 4 or 5 Ichigo Hito Furies and then like a Cosmo Katana, that's actually still going to be better than your Kame option. But you got to whale pretty hard to beat the Highlander Earth setup. But if you do want to whale pretty hard, just keep stacking Ichigo Hito Furies just like their Ixabas or Edens. So, Stamina Earth Magna? Oh boy. There is one, I think. Oh yeah, there is one. I had to think about it for a second. Stamina Earth is... I think I'm looking in the wrong tab. Am I looking in the wrong tab? I am not. Nibelunghorn. This thing is Stamina Crit. So, where I kind of bagged on Bow of Mitron for having medium stamina and then medium crit and then like the kind of garbage dodge and counter thing, Nibelunghorn is entirely medium stamina, big crit. So this is what you like to see. These are good. These are good Magna choices. Nothing wrong with running a bunch of Nibelunghorns. I believe you're at maximum crit if you have 2 bigs and a medium. So you could run, if you ran 3 of these, then you'll be over maximum crit, which is totally fine. But yeah, you want probably about 3 of these if you're running Magna. Okay, Wind. So Wind is the first element we're talking about that does not have an Eden. Has no weapon that is the equivalent of an Eden template weapon. It really suffers from that. You wouldn't think it would, but here's the thing. Prior to relatively recently, Primal Wind was kind of a joke. There wasn't really a good case to be made for running Primal Wind, especially if you're investing like Dama and like grand weapons and whatnot. It just was you had to invest a lot of resources, and it wasn't significantly better than Magna Wind. More recently, Wind started getting enough density of decent to good grand weapons to the point where now you can run Primal Wind and like be all right. But Wind still lags behind the elements that have Eden style weapons. So a weapon I think a lot of people will compare to an Eden is Vortex of the Void. This is Grimnir's spear, and it's fairly obvious why you might make that comparison. It's a grand weapon, it's a spear, it's stamina based primarily. So like, yeah, it's similar, but that's where the comparison ends, because Eden is in a completely different league than Vortex of the Void. Vortex of the Void doesn't exist in the same league as Eden. It's just not nearly as good. And the reason why is Eden, as we've talked about, is 2 offensive stats. Vortex of the Void is 1 offensive stat. It is entirely stamina based, which pretty much automatically precludes it from being included in vast numbers in a grand weapon grid. Because if you have 5 vortexes in your grid, you start taking damage, your damage output's going to drop like a rock. It's going to be real bad if you start taking any amount of damage. So what are you trading off then for not having that second offensive stat? Because you have stamina and then you have grace. Well, grace is HP and debuff resistance. So let's talk in more detail about HP. I think a lot of people like HP because it makes them feel comfortable. Here's the thing though. Comfort is not a meaningful metric in terms of determining effectiveness. Yes, if you're on 100,000 HP, like, you're probably not going to die very easily, but you're also going to be dealing a lot less damage because you're running HP as a stat on weapons instead of attack. So HP, practically speaking, is a stat that you want of to the point where you no longer need it. What do I mean by that? A fight like Lucilius HL, you want at least 30,001 HP. Because there's a join trigger. When you join Lucilius HL, he nukes everybody for 30,000 plain damage. You don't have 30,001, you're going to instantly die. So you want 30,001. You want a little bit more than that, actually. You want like 35,000, because it's safer to have a little bit of a buffer. But you don't want 50,000, 60,000, 80,000, 100,000, because anything that high, you're trading off a lot of damage for it, to the point where you're probably not going to be able to clear your labor, because you need to deal 10 million in a turn on demand to clear your labor on Lucilius. So that's the trade-off right there. You only want HP to match what is needed for that fight, and then no more. So you don't want a ton of HP weapons. Now, we're talking stamina, so I can already hear someone furiously typing that, well, having a lot of HP means your stamina is going to turn off slower. That is true, but there's 2 problems with that argument. First one is, yes, if you're on 100,000 HP, you can take more damage before your stamina bonus starts dropping off too badly. However, your stamina is turning off slower, but your attack is lower overall because you're running weapons that have HP on them instead of attack. Because remember, no weapon stat is free. It's always opportunity cost. Second thing is, yes, you have a ton of HP, great. Most of the characters that have heals in the game, their healing is capped. Like, any character that doesn't have a full heal, and there's only a very few characters that have a full heal, their healing is capped at something like 2k, 3k per heal. So you're never going to get actually back up to that high HP again. So those are the 2 issues. Debuff resistance. The problem with debuff resistance is, it's a fine stat, don't get me wrong, but the problem with it is, it's hard to plan around in a grid. Debuff resistance is more something you get from characters. Tons of characters have Veil, or like some method of giving you 100% debuff resistance. Mahira in Earth, for example, if you have full drum beats, everyone's immune to debuffs essentially. Like, debuff resistance is not a thing you want to see in your grid, because often you rely on your characters to bring it instead. Bringing it from your grid is more awkward because it's not very easy to stack enough debuff resistance for it to be meaningfully effective reliably. So that's where Vortex is. It's a great, like, it's got big stamina, but then you've got 2 alright non-offensive stats. So 2 alright non-offensive stats plus a good offensive stat equals an alright weapon. You run a couple vortexes, but you don't run more than 2 at most. Moving on. Your Magna wind stamina option. Primarily, it's going to be Last Storm Harp. This is Grimnir's harp. It's been in for a while. Pretty good. It's a pretty good stamina weapon. It's medium stamina, big crit. You've seen this before. This template before. Again, weapons tend to be templates. There's usually several weapons that have the same skill setup across various form factors. But yes, this is a pretty good one. 2 offensive stats. Crit is not my favorite offensive stat, but it works. It's good. It's just it only really works on elements, so that's the main drawback of crit. And then crit's also not a thing you stack infinitely, because you hit a point where you hit maximum crit and you're not really getting any benefit from stacking more. So this is a fine weapon. You want to run about 3 of these in a lot of grids. Now, a weapon came out recently that I really shit on, and I maintain that it's a garbage weapon, and that is Grimnir's butt plug. A friend of mine tells me this is a spoon. I mean, if you say so. Looks like a butt plug to me. This thing is a small attack HP, medium double attack, medium crit. So the key stats made for using this weapon is 2 big crit weapons and a medium crit weapon equals 100% crit. So you could run 2 Last Storm Harps and then this thing. And you would still be 100% crit. So you don't lose, like the fact that Last Storm Harp is big crit, you know, if you're running that setup, then you're not losing anything by running this. And what you're getting is double attack, and stamina. Now, let's talk about that a second and why I think that's completely wrong. The big thing is double attack is a garbage stat. I've talked about this. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. It's just not a good stat. You're already probably going to be near a double attack rate cap of any decent grid and team. So what you're really trading is medium stamina versus small attack, small HP. We've already talked about HP. If you need HP to meet some threshold, then sure, you run this thing. That's totally legit if you need HP. But if you don't need HP, then let's consider that a dead stat. And then what are you left with? If crit is equal, if double attack is a dead stat, if HP is not a meaningful stat, then it's small attack versus medium stamina. I feel like medium stamina wins. And to be honest, I've looked at the Kamigame grids and they agree. Medium stamina is better than small attack, generally speaking. So those are your wind Magna options. Moving on. Okay, water. So water doesn't have an Eden template weapon. It really suffers from it just like wind does. The meta water setups for stamina are like what I'm running, so like Highlander crit staff. There's also like a crit charge attack build you can make with like a couple of Drang's blue balls and a couple Folia bows and like a Europa spear. They're both good grids. Let's talk about the stamina weapons here real fast. Savior of Hollow Ground. This is from Ka-Ung. Totally farmable. Rest in peace if you're gonna go farm it, because I hate farming that raid. Hoarfrost stamina, so big stamina, and then staff resonance. Staff resonance is effectively Trium. It's multi-attack. It's based on how many stabs you have equipped. A lot of staff synergy in water. I'm running 8 stabs here, plus I'm running a Cosmo staff, so additional benefits if you're running stabs. Water is very staff centric. Other stamina weapon is Galilee's Insight. It's again big stamina. This is Europa Spear. Big stamina, medium double attack rate, and crit. Double attack rate, as we keep talking about, is pretty whatever, but you know, crit and stamina is fine. Good even. Dark Opus weapon does have a stamina key on it, but you know, you can put anything on Dark Opus weapon. You 5-star uncap it, it can be stamina or entity or really whatever you want. That's just how Dark Opus weapons work. Those are what I'm running, but there's one more Primal mod stamina weapon for water, and I would say this is the reason why there isn't an Eden template weapon for water. Where the F is it? Thimble. Thimble, once upon a time, was a really good weapon. It's been a while since people have made a case for running a ton of Thimbles. Here's the thing with Thimble. Nilacantha, or Zechariah, same template. Big stamina, small HP. So like when you thought those weapons were all cool and new, no, they're just Fimbles. They're Fimbles. They're Magna Fimbles, I should say. That said, the thing with Fimble is, as we've talked about before, only has stamina. So in a one-turn kill grid, okay, it's fine. Or in an easy fight, it's fine. But when you start taking damage, your damage is going to start tanking because you only have stamina to rely upon. That's why Fimble is not as popular a weapon these days. Back when weapons, there weren't as many good weapons, Fimble was more popular. But as we get better options, Fimble falls off. Here's the thing people don't talk about a lot with Fimble in particular. Fimble's not a premium weapon. It's not from gacha. It's a farmable weapon. Farmable weapons have lower stats baseline than premium weapons. Like, that might seem like, you know, something you might question, but it's true. Just compare like an equivalent level like premium weapon that you get from gacha, especially a ground weapon, versus like an equivalent level not premium weapon, so a farmable weapon, so like a Magna drop weapon or like an event weapon. It's pretty drastic how much lower the stats are. So if you're leaning on weapons like Fimble, your stats overall are gonna be lower. And if you're running a lot of weapons that are farmable, overall your damage is gonna start falling a little bit. It's kind of a rough pill to swallow, but it's true. Let's talk Magna and stamina weapons for water. I can't think of one. I actually have been sitting here for like a minute just staring at the screen thinking, yeah, Magna stamina weapons, right? Like Europa. Wait, are there any Magna stamina weapons for water? None of the Europa weapons are Magna stamina. Fimble is Primal. Let's see, like Wilhelm? No, Wilhelm's Tyranny. Both Sigurd's like Frostblade. Like none of the Leviathan weapons are stamina. The Makula Marius weapons, Oberon and shit, aren't stamina. I cannot think of one. Hang on, let me double check Oberon real quick, because now I'm curious. Oberon is not stamina. Yeah, it's Majesty Restraint. I cannot think of a Magna stamina weapon for water. Let me know down below if you can think of one. I know what's gonna happen is like the second I hit upload on this thing, I'm gonna realize that I missed one obvious one. So let me know. Anyways, moving on. Let's look at some Kamigame grids. Okay, we're on Kamigame. I've mentioned this site a few times in other videos. Essentially, the site puts together the ideal grid, mathematically speaking, in both Magna and Primal versions for the various elements. These are mathematically ideal. If you want an idea of like what is a grid you can aspire to with infinite resources, then Kamigame is a pretty cool site for that. I've checked the math on a few occasions, and they're pretty spot on. Like, there's not a lot of points I would quibble them about. But I wanted to go here so I can show you what happens if you have Eden style weapons in your element. So let's look at all the Primal ones, and I'll look at a couple Magna ones too. But the Primal ones, Ixaba is Fire's Eden style weapon, right? Well, the ideal Fire grid, it's 5 Ixabas. This is what I'm talking about. If you have access to an Eden style weapon, really the right thing to do is just add more of them until it's unreasonable to add more of them. So 5 Ixabas, and then they run the Rise of Beast Katana because that has cap up on it, and they run Cosmo Katana, which is another katana, for more cap up, and then they run Dark Opus because of course you do, and then you run Seraphic for the elemental bonus, and then they're running the Astral Axe because it's a really good weapon. It's a very good main hand. It's essentially more cap up, like if you triple. It's a very good weapon. So like that's kind of what you do. Other options, like this one's still Ixaba based, but they drop off some Ixabas in order to run crit weapons. So this is stamina crit. So these are Reinhardt, that's not his name. I forgot his name. The Fist guy that some people were super upset that he got shafted on getting a Grand character like forever, and then he suddenly got a Grand character. He was evil and then turned good or some shit. I skipped his chapters. but he got a rand character, and then the rand character ended up not being very impressive, and then the weapon ended up not being very impressive. That's this character's weapon. It's a crit weapon combined with Benetia, which is Rackham's weapon, which is another crit weapon. And as I mentioned before, 2 big crits and 1 medium crit equals maximum crit, so that's basically this setup. This is also Mugen's Harp. Mugen's Harp's a pretty good grand main hand if you want to run a harp. But that's what that build is. This one's like Enmity crit. And yeah, we're not going to look at everything because we'd be here forever. But you can check it out for yourself if you want to see those other grids. Let's hammer that point home. If you are freaking Titan, they're going to show you a ton of Kame grids because, like I said, Kame's a good option. So Highlander Kame, Highlander Kame, Highlander Kame. But then you get down here, and where is it? When you get down here, you spam your Eden style weapons. It's running 4 Ichigo Heat of Furies. It's running Greatsword and Dalius for Kappa, and then you can get crit and like HP, I believe, from Alexiel's shard if you want it. And then like they're running Hollow Sky Spear, which benefits spear characters and katana characters, and then they're running a Ultima Katana. I'm kind of curious why they're not running a Cosmo Katana. Oh, they recommend it as a potential replacement candidate. That's another cool thing about the site. They'll give you the ideal grid, but they'll also give you some potential replacements you can make if you don't have some of these weapons. But yes, running a high density Eden style weapons as your stamina choice, very strong. I mean, the OG itself, Zeus has Eden itself. It's running Eden and Jeanne d'Arc, Grand Jeanne d'Arc's Spear Sacred Standard. This thing is Trium and Progression. As I mentioned before, Trium, while it's fallen off, still has a place in some elements because those elements don't have as many multi-attack rate buffers or guaranteed multi-attack characters. Light, you could say, is one of those elements that still benefits from Trium, so that's why they run a couple of these here. This is a Rongo Miniad. This is this is Rider Arthuria's Spear. The Fako references keep coming. And then they run Cosmo Spear because you're running freaking 7 spears. This is Certificus. This is not a spear. This is an axe. This is Granblue's weapon. Gives you a higher charge attack cap. And then Dark Opus and Seraphic weapon. This is similar. This is just subbing out the Sacred Standards for the most part for Ivory Arcs. Sub out also something else. Oh, they're subbing out the Cosmo Spear for Ivory Arcs. Ivory Arcs are crit weapons. So this is a crit stamina build for Primal. Pretty good. And then if you really want to maximize, you run like Luchador to maximize like your number of attacks when you're at 100% stamina bonus. And you run 5 freaking Edens because more Edens is never bad. Interesting point to note here. This confuses some people. So you notice they're running Dark Opus, Primal Dark Opus here. They're running Magna Dark Opus here. It's because when you get to a certain density of Eden style weapons, you benefit more from running a Magna weapon that has the same configuration, so attack plus stamina, just because it lets you. It gives you better multipliers. It lets you dip into a couple of different multipliers, and overall your damage will be better. It's not a night and day difference or anything. It's not that big a deal. If you only want a level 1 Dark Opus, don't worry about it too much, I would say. If you got the extra gold bars to do it, then by all means, get both options. But if you don't want to spend the bars, it's not like there's better places to worry about things than that. So, yeah, real quick, we'll talk about an element in Primal that doesn't have an Eden style weapon, so Wind. So as you can see, Wind doesn't have an Eden style weapon, so they kind of run a mishmash of different grand weapons. Their stamina option here is, again, Vortex. But like I said, because Vortex only has 1 attack mod, you don't want to run a shit ton of them, and they aren't. They're running like Rosetta's Spears, Grand Rosetta. Sorry, not Spear, Dagger. Rosetta's Dagger, which is like 2 attack mods essentially, and then Lycia's Dagger, which again is a couple attack mods. And then Monica's Sword, Grand Monica's Sword, which is again like a grand weapon that's pretty decent. It's like attack and then like I want to say charge attack damage cap. It's been a while since I've looked at it. But that's what it looks like if you're Primal and you don't have an Eden style weapon. Let's talk Magna real quick. Which one of these would even be Magna? Well, we'll talk about the Fire Grade real fast since it's got the new Magna weapon. That's Enmity Fire. Magna Fire tends to be more enemy aligned because X-Ax is actually a pretty good weapon, but if you want to run Stamina Fire, you can run a couple of these Nilicanthas, and that's legit. Again, they suffer from the fact that they only have one attack mod, so you don't want to run a shit ton of them. It becomes a major problem. So that's the issue with Magna stamina for the most part. Like, well, let's look at water real quick because I cannot remember if water has a Magna weapon. I don't think it does. None of these are ringing any bells as Magna weapons. Yeah, these are Enmity. I don't think water has a Magna stamina weapon. Yeah, let me know. Here's the charge attack grid. 5 fucking Europa harps that like, ugh, ugly. Let's see. Okay, so an element that can run stamina in Magna legitimately is wind. Wind tends to run a thing that I trash on sometimes, which is Stamnity. That's when you mix both. Generally speaking, I don't like Stamnity because it's hard to plan around. Because usually if you're running Enmity, you're running Enmity characters that can enable their own Enmity. If you're running Stamina, you've got tons of tools to keep you topped off in order to benefit from Stamina. When you're running Stamnity, you're kind of saying, like, whatever happens, happens. I mean, I don't have great controls either way. I'm just going to see how this fight goes and then kind of be okay whether or not I do take damage or not. That's Stamnity. It's kind of the option where you're always going to be somewhere in between the two poles of efficiency, so you're just kind of maximizing in that situation. But again, it's inconsistent because you have characters that tend to push you one way or the other, whereas Stamina, what happens happens. I don't like it, but some people make an argument for it. The reason they're doing Stamina and Wind is I would say is because you don't really want to run more than 3 Last Storm Harps, because Last Storm Harp has a big crit as its second skill. So when you hit 3 Last Storm Harps, you're over maximum crit already. So it doesn't make sense to continue adding them. So that's a case for adding the Enmity guns. So that's one of the reasons why Wind does often run some form of Stamnity where they mix them. Here's the inverse where they're running Enmity guns over Storm Harps. And then this is the pure Enmity setup. And there's here's the pure Harp setup. This is like probably a 1-turn kill setup, I imagine. But yes, you get a lot of dead skills if you do this with Harps. Because again, the crit doesn't matter past 3 of them. Also note, as I said before, you could run the butt plug, the spear here, and they offer it as a replacement potential for the Last Storm Harp. But like me, they say that 3 Last Storm Harps is probably better than 2 Last Storm Harps and a spoon. Butt plug. Moving on from that, let's talk about an element that runs stamina very well, light. Their suggested grid for stamina light is 3 of the Pillars of Flames. I would say you could probably pop one of these out for a Mitron bow if that's just what you had, and not suffer for it too much. But it's not ideal. Like, I don't think they even offer it as a potential replacement. Because frankly, like if you got the time to farm the spear, you should just run the spears instead of the bows. But if you've got the bow fully uncapped, then just run it. It's fine. It's not that much worse than a spear. They're pretty close. Okay, that I think is all we're going to say for Kamigame. Let's talk about characters real fast. Okay, for characters for stamina, I'm only going to talk about a few, and then I'll give you guidelines you can use in order to evaluate them for yourselves. And the reason I'm going to do that is going to be very readily apparent as soon as I start talking about a few of them. So, Fun, great character for a stamina team. She is one of the Eternals at 5-star uncap. She's amazing. She's got a big heal with her 1, Sunshine, ++. It's got Revitalize on it, which is essentially heal over time, and then also has Strength buff on it. Strength is a stamina buff. It's jammed, but for stamina, it's a buff-based stamina skill. She's got the ability to clear debuffs and then give you Veil effectively. She can give someone a 15-turn duration single target buff that also makes them reincarnate if they die, so they'll come back if they die. She can full freaking heal everyone and give them guts and revive everybody. She's got immune to skill seal, so if your team gets skill sealed, she's gonna not get skill sealed, and then she'll remove all the skill seal from your entire team with her 2 Blessing of Light. She reduces dark damage dealt to your whole team, so your stamina stays in play longer. She removes debuffs. She lowers dark attack. She also lowers multi-attack rate, letting you stay at high health. Let's talk about another stamina character. Granblue. Best tank in the game, I would say. Aegis Merge. This lets her do a full party sub, like subs for everybody. She'll just take a hit for your entire team for multiple turns based on when you cast it. And then while that is up, she will most likely also survive that hit, if not all the hits, because she gives herself something like 1,000% defense buff when she does that. Like, incredibly survivable tank. In addition to that, she has Divine Weapon. When she uses this, while Aegis Merge is up, she makes everyone in your team deal guaranteed triples. And then they also get increased charge bar gain and a special buff, boost light attack, so an echo. Works very well with Luchador setup, since it's turn long, not 1 attack long, so you can double it with tag team, and then like use with regular fairy and all that shit, and that lets you enable fairy skill like outside of strike time, etc., etc., etc. She can also dispel on her too. Let's talk about another character that works well in the stamina team. Then you'll see why I'm only giving you guidelines. Andira, sure. Andira is a great stamina character. Let's see what she do. She dispels on charge attack, always a useful thing. She has a full freaking heal. Will heal you all the way to full. This is one of the few characters that does not have cap on how much she heals. Does lower your defense though, so keep that in mind. Can be dangerous sometimes to use that heal. She can give someone a pretty powerful single target buff with an Echo, with Sage of Eternity. Her 3 gives your whole party a strong buff. Multi-Decree is a very strong stacking debuff. She dodges all the freaking time. Whenever she charge attacks, she basically gets a guaranteed dodge all attacks from foes with infinite diversity. She is an amazing character for a stamina team. Here's why I don't really want to go over every stamina character. I'm just describing good characters. Like, they work well in a stamina team, but they're also just good characters. When I say they work well and like they're a great stamina character, I'm pretty much just saying they're a great character that's not Enmity based. The only characters that are good that don't work well in a stamina team are the ones that are Enmity based, ones that lower their HP. Like, you want another, like, light, here, I'll just talk about all the light characters. Another strong, like, light stamina character? Grand Jeanne d'Arc, because why not? She has literally nothing that really heals you. She's just got, like, a significant debuff, significant buff. She does have stamina buff, actually. And then, like, an assassin skill for the team, effectively. And, like, she's got a ton of shit, right? But she's not... There's nothing that expressly makes her a stamina character. She's just a great character. And that's kind of where I get back to the point that stamina is a little bit basic. Like, good stamina characters are just good characters. If they can heal, if they can tank, if they can, like, prevent you from taking damage, then additionally, even on top of that, they're even better stamina characters, but they're just good characters for the most part. Here, I'll give you an opposite example. A character that is very heal-centric, so you would think they'd be a good stamina character, but they're not a good stamina character because they're not a good character. So, I'm sorry, Sophia, but Sophia, like, she's got a heal, she can clear debuffs, she can revive somebody, she even increases, like, the healing cap, but she's not a good stamina character. You know why? Because there's so many characters that are better than her, and that's why I don't really want to talk about every good stamina character, because I would be talking about, like, pretty much like 80% of the good characters in the game are good stamina characters. So we're moving on from that. Just keep in mind that if they do have the ability to heal themselves, or to or heal your team, or like to tank damage or give you a damage cut or a sub, then additionally on top of that they do work well in stamina. The only characters that don't work in stamina are characters that want to lower their own HP. Okay, so I'm trying to think of what fight I want to do to showcase stamina, and the issue with showcasing stamina is really any fight that any video I've done where I'm soloing a boss, so like Six Dragon Advent, Proving Grounds, those are essentially stamina showcases because I'm usually running stamina in those fights, unless I'm running Dark, in which case I'm running Enmity. So yeah, I'm having trouble thinking of what. I think what I'm going to do actually is I'll run Earth on Six Dragon Advent, the water one, since I'm farming that anyways, I need the mats from that, so 2 birds, 1 stone. But the nice thing about that is I'll take some damage, so you'll actually start seeing like my damage fluctuate based on my HP, which is an important thing to factor in with stamina. This is Earth Grid, not Highlander because I'm not running Kame. Kame's fine, he's on the list of evokers I'll make maybe the next one, we'll see. But for now, until I make Kame, I'm just running the setup. The Ichigo Hito Furies are stamina. My Dark Opes weapon is stamina fully uncapped. I've talked about this grid in my Urfi 9 fight prep video, so I'm not going to get into it too much here. Can I pop out something for Belial? I really should pop out the Lucifer for Belial, but I kind of want the heal. You know, fuck it. we'll pop out Lucifer for Belial. Just for more damage. Maximum deeps. Hurt our HP, but honestly, the Six Dragon Advent fight shouldn't be too bad. Running Holiday Narmaya, Summer Alexiel, and Mahira. Specifically because Mahira instead of Kane, who I'd be more inclined to run since I'm running a Katana setup, but specifically Mahira in this case because Mahira has... It's easier to access Echo with Mahira, which works better for clearing the omens, the little purple attacks, the omens on Six Dragon Advent. So let's just do this real fast. If you've already seen me run Six Dragon Advent Earth, then, well, consider this a rerun. It's funny, because I got a comment on my Nier showcase, where this person was like, why are you fighting Apollo for this showcase? Like, Apollo's super easy, this doesn't prove anything, Enmity's fucking super unreliable, this doesn't prove anything. It's like, I'm not mad or anything, but it's like, buddy, I think you misunderstand. I usually cap, like, you misunderstand why I do a little fight at the end of, like, a showcase or something. It's not to, like, show a hard fight. It's just to show the concepts I'm talking about in motion. I actively try and avoid longer fights for those, because this isn't like, you know, a showcase on another channel where it's just gameplay running with, like, you know, no commentary. I talk over these, so I usually don't want to do like a really long fight because it's just going to be me sitting here yakking for a while. So, Holly Narmaya did a showcase on her, but basically she can give herself a really powerful assassin effect, which I'm just going to use at the beginning here because I think it will cool down in time for actually being useful on the Omen. Haven't talked about Summer Alexiel, but she basically gives herself Uncrossable Waters, which lets her sub for the team, in addition to some other effects. And then she stacks Mirror Blades, and Uncrossable Waters consumes... Like, she consumes Mirror Blade stacks, so you want to keep on giving her more Mirror Blade stacks, which she gets from using Hildebrand, and then she auto-casts Hildebrand when she charge attacks, and then the turn after. Basically, she's an auto-nuker that also subs. She's just an amazing character. She's actually... A lot of people, including myself, would say she's probably better than regular Alexiel, but they're both useful in their own ways. You'll see. Like, you'll see when she's actually in action. I actually shove into this, like, I'm gonna shove into these omens faster than I expect, I bet you. Okay, yeah, I did. Awkward. So to clear this thing, I need to deal, what, 25 hits? I don't know if I can do that. So, instead of clearing the omen, actually... Here, we'll try. Because it's gonna go to Alexiel. So can I do 25 hits in one turn? We're gonna try. Because we've got a lot of Echo. But if it doesn't, it's gonna go to Alexiel. And that's probably... Oh, no, we didn't. No, we didn't. It's gonna go to Alexiel because of Uncrossable Waters, which is totally fine. Because she's got... she's just a very beefy defensive character. So here comes another one. think what I'm going to do is defend against this, because I just don't want to take the attack from Vessel Fall. And when you're running stamina, because that's kind of what this discussion is about, you want to keep yourself top. And you can use potions early like that to let yourself stay in your ideal stamina range longer. Oh yeah, I forgot Alexio's subbing. Why did I... The UI deceived me there, but it's fine. Okay, let's try to check for everybody. Yeah, I totally thought that attack was going to go to everybody, but it only went to Alexio, so I didn't really need a guard. It's fine, that's not a big deal. But yeah, so I'm using a potion a little bit aggressively, instead of like when there's dire need, so I can keep my damage up. And that's one thing to factor in when you're playing stamina. And I'm not running like 4 Ichigas. I will run 4 Ichigas when I eventually put the Dama into 4 Ichigas, but I'm running enough that like taking damage is going to cause my damage to drop off. Okay, 22 hits. I think this is actually still going to Alexio. Are you still subbing for everybody, Alexio? I need to double check because I don't use her a lot. Actually, I don't think she is subbing for everybody right now. So, that being the case, I am going to block. And this is totally a legitimate thing to do on these guys, because honestly, like, it can save your life, so play on the safe side, and, you know, you really don't want to take the damage, because that's gonna drop you into the range where you're doing really bad damage as far as stamina goes. Okay, bitch ass, you need to like knock it off with all these AoEs. Let's guard again. Okay, I'm actually, can I heal myself up significantly? Because again, health is always the thing you want to keep up if you're running stamina, because then your damage is going to fluctuate too low if you don't have a lot of health. So I think in that regard, I'm actually gonna... Oh wait, no, you consumed my drum beats, didn't you, you fucking piece of shit. So Mahira gives drum beats. Drum beats can be consumed in order to turn to potions or to activate her passive, where if you have maximum drum beats, you don't take... You're essentially immune to debuffs, which was super useful in the 9-5 way. But this thing, I think, dispelled my drum beats, so don't have that option right now. Okay, now Alexio's gonna sub for everybody, which is totally what I want. So I'm gonna guard on Alexio in order to have her not take too much damage from his Vessel Fall. I mean, it could just straight miss too. That's valid. Alexio's at about like 60% health, so she's not as deep in the stamina as I would like. When does that come up? Okay, in a few turns. Narmaya, I'm gonna go ahead and consume your charge attack bar in order to give you multi-attack. And then we're just gonna go ahead and use Echo skill right now, because the Quillen summon is gonna cool down soon. And it should last, like, they should flow nicely into each other. When you're uncapping your ass for weapons, you get real good soloing these things. Because the materials, if you don't like solo in order to get them, really annoying. You know, if I were ballsy, I could just like eat this with guts. But I think I'm gonna... Yeah, I think I'm gonna guard against this. Like, there's no reason to take the risk. Because if I use guts, right? I have guts from Titan, right? So I could just face tank this thing, and I wouldn't die because it would just drop me to 1 HP. But then my stamina would be completely off. So those are some considerations to make when you're playing stamina. Okay, I think I can clear this. We're gonna try. Because I've got Echo and everybody, right? Right? Surely I do. Yes, I do. It's gonna be real awkward if I don't. Yeah, I think we got this. We don't got this! It's fine, Narmaya subbed it anyways, because Holly Narmaya is fucking amazing. So, like, that's fine. Innocent Strain. I don't think this does a lot of damage. I am gonna go ahead and spend my drum beats though. And not get a potion. I guess not everyone was on full drum beats. It's fine. My play is almost flawless. How dare you suggest that I made a mistake there? Don't think Instant Drain hits for that hard if I remember right. It's been a little bit since I've done this fight. Yeah, called it. It's fine. Okay, now we now I think the is down. So yeah, now we're good to go. Like now we're gonna mess this guy up. Did you really skill seal me? I didn't even realize you skill sealed. Like, I didn't realize that was a thing. Okay, so okay. Well, I guess I'm not skill sealed anymore. Great. Okay, so Quillin. Get our heal again to get everyone's damage back up, because again, stamina. Cast all the fucking things. Fine. Gonna get Narmaya's assassin up, get Alexio's stuff up. Literally, I'm just gonna hit all the buttons because it's fine. Like, don't need to be precise here. I'm gonna pot Alexio actually. Aggressively pot for damage. This isn't because I'm fearing Alexio's gonna die, it's just I want more damage. So. Sweet, sweet Narmaya damage. Okay, now I have full drum beats, I think. So I can now consume them with... No, I don't. Narmaya is still not full drum beats. Why is Narmaya's drum beat slow? I don't understand. Vortex Kernel, you say. I say Quillin again. I say get Fated Chained. Say Narmaya's gonna fucking demolish you. Honestly, like, we still have all the buffs active from last turn, so, like, I think I'll just cast all this stuff. End this motherfucker. Narmaya, get him. Yeah, that's a stamina showcase. I mean, I did try to make a point of keeping my HP a little bit higher and like aggressively pot. So those are some things to keep in mind when you're running stamina. Lumberjack is a pretty good stamina class actually because they've got their little heal they can cast repeatedly. Just some mix of being able to keep your HP high is very useful for a stamina team. So hopefully you've enjoyed this showcase. It was the obligatory one I had to do as a companion to the Enmity one. So now I've covered both Enmity and Stamina. As for the next video, no. There's a few things I want to talk about. I still need to do a full update of like the beginner's guide to skills, because that video is like 3 years, maybe 4 years? 3 years I think old now, and it's getting a little bit out of date. It's still relevant, but I want to do an update on that. So that might be the next one. We'll see. Catch you guys later. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.